Welcome to another episode of Unpacking the Brand. My name is Randy Kessler, joined as always by the CEO of the Riot Agency, Ken Theriot. July, Ken, our birthday month. Great month. How things been going for you?
Things have been good, still in the busy summer schedule, but enjoying every minute of it and excited to record another episode. I'm excited about our next guest. I had the pleasure of speaking with him at FTA in Pittsburgh, where he just recently won an award. And I think he understands kind of the concept of brand really well. And he's built a really great business by focusing on that. So I'm excited about it.
In a world where brands compete for attention, where innovation meets strategy, and where storytelling drives success, join Ken Theriot and Randy Kessler as they dive into the world of branding, business, and beyond.
Joining us on today's episode of Unpacking the Brand is Alain Paquette, the president of Artcraft label up in the beautiful country of Canada, north of the border, also known as the French guy who's not from the industry. How's it going today, sir?
Very good. Nice and warm over here.
Yeah, it's 90 here in Minnesota. I'm in Minneapolis. You probably didn't know that. So yeah, if it's 90 here, it's probably warm by you because we're not too far away.
It's only 81 here.
I love it. Oh man.
We're in the 90s. I went cycling last night and it was hot.
Nice.
Well, how's the humidity?
Very high because of the lakes. We're surrounded from the lakes, so
right.
Yeah, today was like the high humidity. Even driving in, and the air quality was really bad. You could see like it's remnants from the forest fires in Manitoba. Like the air usually pushes west to east, so they're coming to us.
So we normally start off with kind of some background, and I know you had mentioned you didn't want to get too technical on things, and we don't like to get too technical on things either. So that aligns perfectly with what we've got going on here. But maybe what you could do is kind of take us through your career background and how you became to be the president of Artcraft label, and maybe any stops along the way to kind of get to where you are today.
Okay. So basically, I started pretty much fresh out of school. I went working in a metal working factory, and we were doing hard chrome plating. So hard chrome plating, you'll see that often on print cylinders, and we were doing a lot of work for Ashton presses and Heidelberg presses and whatnot. So I learned by trade. I became a chrome plater, but I moved up that ladder fairly quick. And in '87, I ended up moving to Sudbury, which is a city about 250 miles north of here, which is where it's basically a mining town. And I stayed in Sudbury for 8 years. And while I was in Sudbury, basically built up the business they had there. And so I've managed all of that. So focused on repairing parts for mining trucks and things, something very industrial. And then in '95, I ended up moving to Oakville, which is the neighboring town to Burlington, where I am now. And I've managed a division over there, became a vice president and co-owner in the company. Managed that till basically after the 2008 recession. That's when things started just not going very well. So in 2010, with the partners, just parted ways. And took a year off, went back to school, got refreshed, everything. So I took operations management, took basically business, like there was a marketing component of it, and there was a strategy, a course on business strategies. So I aced all my 3 courses and then started looking for work and realized that I wouldn't work for anyone. So then it became obvious I had to go buy a business, and then I started looking, and that was tough. Like just look at, like, because you can't just find something like this, and And then talking to a friend of mine, he says, I'll ask my accountant. And he asked his accountant, and then Artcraft came up. And then once I saw the preliminary of Artcraft, the size of the business, the age, I said, there's very good knowledge. Like, yeah, I'd be quite comfortable, like at least on the management part and the printing side. Funny enough, I understood the mechanics of that. Wouldn't be able to tell me how to print, but I know what a gear is, I know what a cylinder is, I know what it does, I know the sizing. So I got into the negotiating process, and that took about 6 months. And finally, in March of 2012, became the French guy that's not from the industry. Was the new owner of Artcraft. So then I embarked on Artcraft. Like basically, it was owned. The owners were a bit old, so there's some stuff that needed to be modernized. So I started getting into a bit of automation. First things first was basically like all the Microsoft suite of programs. So we got into the volumetric licensing, rebuilt the whole IT, and then we got into efficiencies in the plant. Like anything that had to move from one press to another, and basically training and really revamping the ISO. We're ISO 9001 certified for quality. So I kept on telling people that a quality management system is there to help you get better and keep on improving, not there to police necessarily what you do. It has an aspect of policing. Essentially, it's there to improve. So we'll use it as a tool to improve for continuous improvement. It took a while, but eventually we got there, and here I am today.
How large are you guys? How many employees do you have?
We're 14 people right now. We're looking for 2 more. We're growing this year.
Oh, excellent.
It's a nice size. I don't want to be above 20. Like just it's one of those things. It's not about being big for me as an owner.
So I wanted to talk about, so obviously the name of the podcast is Unpacking the Brand. So we wanted to talk a bit about branding. So what do you think makes a brand successful, but also one that people can, that's memorable to people?
Well, on the brand, to me, a brand is a lot more than just a logo or an image, or it's like it involves, there's the whole cultural aspect of it. It's like the whole, like it's a whole envelope, and there's many components of it. And to me, there has to be some sort of integrity, like where, like if a brand strays, it will find its way back into, what you call the center. And I mean, I could use examples of brands like if we take Tylenol, for instance. Tylenol is a solid brand in my eyes. Like and I remember, I think I was still very young. I had hair at the time. When we had the Tylenol, like people were taking Tylenol, and and then Tylenol issued a statement, like just recalled everything, issued a statement and said, "This is not Tylenol. This is not us. Like, we allowed this to happen. We're very sorry, and it's never going to happen again." And then they took measures, and the company just really turned itself around. But I mean, this could have bankrupted the company had they not reacted properly.
No, I agree. I think, we at Theriot, we talk about how a brand is more than a logo. It's this promised experience, right? Like you stand for something, you stand and the opportunity that you have to reinforce or create that brand experience is every single touch point, every single time somebody interacts with you or uses your product, they have a desired experience. And, as a business owner and management and employees, like you guys really are the steward of that brand, right? So, the market really owns the brand because their perception of you is what your brand is. And so you kind of present it to the market, and you do your best to make sure that your values and your activities align to it. But ultimately, whatever they think about you is what your brand equity is. So I couldn't agree with you more on what you said.
Yeah. What we do at Artcraft is, in a nutshell, that's what it is the whole, it takes years to build that in a culture. But I can tell you that, like, right from the last person on the line to the first one, myself, a client can come and interact with any of us, and the language is consistent throughout. The one thing that we do is we do create value because we don't sweat the small stuff. We look, we say, okay, all right, there's this organization here. Let us take that on. We'll help you, and we create value. And so the clients come to us. Like we had one recently, and she gave us a really good review. But she came in and it was just like, hey, I've got a deadline. I got this new product, and all of a sudden it's like the liquor board just gave me a deadline, and I can't go to market with this. And we said, okay, no problem. Here's what you need to do. And there were some legalities in it. Like we don't get involved. We don't give legal advice. We explain, hey, here's what you need to do. Like go get that data, get those numbers right. We'll finish our side, and we'll get you out there on time.
Do you think that, that review is in terms of those kind of critical situations under pressure? Like, is that something you guys specialize in, or is that, probably being rushed to do high quality products, probably not ideal, but is that, did they come to you because of that?
I would say to a certain extent, yes. Like we are known in the industry to be, if you're stuck and you want things to move, just go see them. But it was funny. I don't think that, I don't consider them competitors. So we talk in the industry, and I was talking to a fellow printer, and he was like, how do you guys manage that? Like, how did you turn this around? I'll be 5 weeks down the line by the time I got all the chips and everything. Like, he says, you guys managed it in a few weeks. I said, well, it's the minute they came in, there's transparency. So everybody, every stat knows, okay, there's a little something I need to do. So it helps speed things up.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because one of the core pieces of when we're doing brand alignment is we pre-write out the testimonials, right? We ask kind of the brand owners, the employees and the owners and the management team to, write out what that future testimonial looks like. What is it like? What do we want them to say that will reinforce all of our activities? And it kind of sounds like you guys are already doing that. Like you just spoke like, oh, we got this really great review. Everyone kind of knows their piece. Like they know what they're trying to accomplish. So it sounds like you have really great brand alignment. And that's what, is probably part of your success.
Yeah. And I would say one of the most important thing, and it really, I was actually surprised. I was at this industry event at one of my customers' association, and I sat in, and it was basically had a talk on brand and then they raised a question. They said, how many of you know, and they're all in the same industry except me. They said, how many of you know what your ideal customer profile looks like? And I was like, my hand went up, but no one in the room. There was maybe another one. I was like, guys, this is the first, we do workshops on this. What does our ideal customer look like? And if we cannot bring value, there are people that will not deal with Artcraft. And we're quite prepared to accept that. It's just because they don't fit in that model. So that's something that we look at very, very, very carefully. Like you need to know that. You need to really understand what your value proposition is.
Yeah, I totally agree. I definitely want to kind of dive into that a little bit more. I think we'll probably get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, we can jump into that right now. I know there was a big rebrand you guys did last year, and we'll definitely get to that. But I think, Ken, feel free to jump in here, and we can dive deeper a little bit.
My question is in terms of your, you talked about your ideal customer profile, your ICP. What did you just inherently know to do that? Like what, told you that that's important? Because I think it's critically important. And so I'm super, encouraged to hear that you said that, and kind of identifying that, a lot of the market in general in a lot of industries don't necessarily put that kind of emphasis on understanding who their ideal customer is. Because then that's what creates alignment. Like if you know who you are, what your brand stands for, and you know what the market wants from you, in terms of, what your ideal customer profile looks like, that's how you really get alignment to make sure that your energy is spent on the things that matter. So what led you there? Like, what did you just wake up one day and were like, I really need to know my customer? Did you inherently know that? Did you read a book?
It took a bit more than that. The one thing that was very important for me as what you call a single business owner, what I'd seen from experience, because I've been managing companies for a long time, is that when you deal with businesses that are like, as a single business owner, you go like, the guy is crazy, or like he only listens to himself. And I didn't want to get caught up into that. So the first thing that I did is, as I bought the company, is I went out to a group of people. I'm well surrounded. I got good friends, and basically in every types of discipline, like from lawyer to banker to. So I formed an advisory group that would sit outside of Artcraft, listening in. So what I would do is every year I write a business plan. I communicate my business plan and my stuff, but I review it with these guys first. And now part of my staff actually sits in on this as well. So when we would go through everything, any struggles that we would have, and this is how that came out. All of a sudden, as the things started flowing to the surface, like where, we said, okay, like, then someone brought that up. They said, do you know what your ideal customer profile is? And I'm like, I don't know. I did one of those, and they said, well, first thing you got to know. And the one thing that I had is, in the previous business that I was in, is I remember talking to my, like, the majority owner, and the one thing that he said to me that stuck with me, he said, you have a quality of being able to actually really weed out your customers and just really get the best of the best that fit our business, where basically it's good value for them, it's good value for us, and it's a good, and they become loyal. Because the one thing I was told, they say, oh, the Greater Toronto area is a big market. Like, people are not loyal. Get used to it. And then I could never. I live on loyalty. To me, it's like you must be loyal. If your customers are not loyal, then don't be in business. It's like, and I think it starts with like the value that you bring. And so with the advisory group, that's where there was a lot of that they helped out with.
That's excellent.
Who was on that advisory group, or how did you decide on that group of individuals?
I initially started, basically, I had like the company accountant would sit on it. Like one of my best friends is a lawyer, and he's a business lawyer. And then I had a guy that essentially was he was a CEO in a label printing company. He's now he's fully retired, but he was semi-retired at the time. And then I brought in a few others. I had the guy that was a brand manager for PepsiCo. So the guy managed like basically the whole marketing portfolio. He was on the Frito-Lay side, but it's Frito-Lay / PepsiCo. So I had to, and the other thing that I did is I joined associations. Like I don't belong to PLMA anymore, but I was in PLMA, which like in the grocery industry, it's basically one of the big guys, and a lot of the topics are basically on brand and on. And I remember, being at one of the conferences, and it was a guy that came in. He says, I was this kid, and he's the one that came up with it was the very first, I think, black Doritos or something. And they did a big campaign. I think it was like around the Super Bowl, and they blew right up. He says, I pretty much lost my job right there. It was like,
no.
It was like, he says it was about a $700,000. Like, it was a massive amount of money spent, like, that never went anywhere. And the brand tanked right after, like, just like they started losing market share. And then I was listening to the story, and I was like, well, the way you learn is you make big mistakes.
Yeah, it was like Crystal Pepsi. Wasn't that one back in the day? Crystal Clear Pepsi. Do you remember that one?
Well, Coke trying to mimic Pepsi in taste. It's like and right now the I don't know how much of it, but there's the buzzword is with that in California, like they're actually starting to look at chemically altering the taste profiles because they look at brands, and so now it's becoming the Pepsi and Coke the battle. So that like if a certain brand's doing very well, another brand said, "Hey, like, how come these guys are doing so well?" It's like, well, taste profiles. Let's play with our taste profile and let's get ourselves up there.
One of my favorite marketing campaigns ever was Coca-Cola had come out with a campaign saying that they had sold 2 times more than any Pepsi. And Pepsi came out with an ad that was a little boy going to a vending machine and he buys 2 Cokes and stands on them so that he can press the Pepsi button. It's so clever. I was like, wow, that's really good.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You got to be careful with this because when you talk about the other, you're actually promoting them. I've always said is like it doesn't matter how they talk about you as long as they talk about you.
100%.
Well, and people are very particular about those two. On our last episode, I talked about some volunteer work I do at local sport stadiums and venues, and we serve Pepsi products. But if people are like, "Oh, I'll take a Diet Coke," and I'm like, "Well, is Diet Pepsi okay?" And they're like, "Not really, but I'll take it anyway," And I'm like, "Jesus, is it that? Is it that substantial or significant?"
That's a classic example of two big. They've done a good job. Like their customers are loyal. They're extremely loyal.
Extremely loyal. Yep.
And that's the power of the brand. Right.
So in terms of kind of your customers, have you built this internal culture of kind of customer care and support around these key clients that you're talking about, the quick turnarounds and that sort of thing? Have you developed that as sort of an internal, way about the business?
Yes. The one thing is, I remember we were doing we do a lot of training, like in-house and also like a lot of, we have like once a month, like we'll have a lunch where we talk about the state of affairs, things going on. One thing was like, there's a certain segment of our business where, the customers would be, there's different, timelines. They're disorganized. They'd be out like in the field doing something, and then next thing you know, like we're not getting what we need on time. And it was always the what I sensed is people would talk to me and say like it's a battle lost, and I go, no, it's not a battle lost. It's an opportunity. Like if we could help them organize themselves without like you don't interfere, but you're there, you remind them, and then people say, oh, we don't want to call people, like, if we call them, they'll get upset, they're busy. I said, no, they'll actually thank you. And then we started doing that. So now there's like a recall process. We do an after sales follow up, and we do, if there's something going out in the field, like right away, there'll be one of us going, if I'm not available, generally I'll be the first line of defense on these kinds of things, is they get my attention right away. And if I'm not available, then someone from the company will go.
I mean, you bring up a great point. One of the things that we try to evangelize to our clients is that while you may be paid on the delivery of a product or a service, what you're really selling is the outsource of responsibility, right? So, if you become responsible for an outcome, then that means you have to be able to manage up or manage in to get those things done. And then you derive a lot more value out of that because, your clients can sleep better at night if they think that you're waking up every morning thinking about their problems too. And if they constantly have to chase you down to fix, problems that they're looking for you to solve, then they're worrying about them anyways. And then they'll, constantly keep that in review. But if you make them feel safe in that you're worrying about them, that lowers their load of responsibility, and that builds a powerful partnership. So I think that you're executing that very well.
Yeah, and the one thing that where I kind of changed it is if a customer came back and we did a job, we printed it. They signed off on the approvals, everything was all clean. Like, basically we're in the clear. Like, but they're not happy with the product. Something going on with it. There's a color that they're like, looking at it now, I'm looking at it on the bottle, and it's just like I looked at it when I was at your place. I looked at it on the proof. I've got like it's not doing it for me. Like, we work with them. Like we'll make something happen. And that's one thing that generally I'd have conversations with other converters or even with my staff, and they'd say, "Well, no, they signed off on it. It's like we're off the hook. It's their problem now." And I said, "No, it's not their problem. It is our problem."
Yep, agreed.
So wanted to turn back the clock a little bit here, and listeners always like a good story. So I think you had a situation where you lost a massive client roughly 6 months before COVID hit. So tell us about that a little bit.
Oh, geez. Those years, like they're behind you.
Yes,
But
agreed.
it was one I had at the time I had a silent business partner, and I knew that at the 5-year mark we're either going to go one way or another, and we ended up parting ways. So I was in the process of buying the partner, but we knew that the elephant in the room was the one of the reasons the relation with the partner wasn't going all that well is that this big customer, which represented about 35% of our business, was they were shopping, and like there was a chance that they could leave, and so we got into the pricing negotiation, and someone came in and essentially got awarded the whole chunk of business. Then they so like our fiscal year ends at the end of September, and I remember, and I have to stop going to Arizona on vacation because every time I go on Arizona on vacation, something happens. I was in Arizona, and then basically I got a call, and they say, "Yep, the last PO came in." I said, "Well, it was supposed to be December." So we had accounted for like business going through December, and at December 31st, we were done. Well, like at September 30th, we were done. So then essentially our sales dropped. We had like massive inventory, and then in the first month following, like in October, like we lost an insane amount of money, and then in November again, and then like then I said, this is not looking good now. The bank could see this, and then in January, and the 1st of January, I get January 2nd, I get a letter from the bank, like you're going into special accounts, and that's where you go before you go bankrupt. So we had a meeting, and then the bank explained to me that I was going into, they call it financial rehabilitation. So then I told the bank, I said, "Well, I always wanted to go to rehab." So it's this financial rehabilitation's better than let's try that. And then, I mean, we have an incredible team at Artcraft, and I think that everybody knew, like, they say everybody got nervous, and I told them, I said, "Don't worry about it." I took some personal money, put some personal money back in the company, got us back afloat, and then, but then COVID hit. So then like as we're starting to, so we worked through, like we identified all the inefficiencies that we had, and we never even had to lay off anyone. We actually kind of like slowly picked up. And in COVID, we actually picked up a couple of opportunities. So call it being lucky, and then we rebuilt slowly. And this year, we're actually ahead. We've made up everything that we've lost in business, and some and more. We're way ahead. That's awesome. And we're never making the mistake again. Like I had bought Artcraft in 2012, and that customer was there. We knew it was. So there's always a danger, and every year it was flagging up in the business case and flagging up in the with the advisory board. Say, hey, and in business school, when you take a course, they always tell you if you have a customer who's becoming too big for you, be very careful, because you become extremely vulnerable. But for us, what it did is it actually the negative effect of losing the customer short term actually opened up our eyes to a lot of different. There was a lot of inefficiencies that we had that were hidden behind that customer that we're running we didn't know existed. Mm-hmm. So then we cleaned all that up, and get better and better and better.
It's sometimes the difficult times. What is the saying? Like when the going gets tough, the tough get going. I mean, it sounds like you demonstrated some leadership to your team, and that's probably speaks volumes to your culture. So I did the tough times, and they demonstrate what you do when it's tough says volumes to what you do when it's good. Congratulations to overcoming that adversity, and it's a testament to what you're building. So,
and the one thing with the staff is with the key staff, I do share performance. I don't keep that hidden. A lot of owners will keep that. Oh, we don't want the people. I want your staff to know you're making money.
God forbid, right?
You do want your staff to know you're making money. They'll feel better. They'll sleep better at night if they know you're making money.
100%. So I wanted to we kind of touched upon the rebrand. What caused you to do the rebrand? Did you, kind of what drove, the decision making? I'm interested in kind of the analytics and technology side of things. Did that play a role in any of it, or does any of that play a role in kind of bringing your brand to market now?
A little bit. Like the one thing is I'm a believer, and that's where you've got the experience, Ken. And you might correct me. Like to me is like at every 10 years you got to kind of look at your brand. And I think the way, like our messaging, the way we presented ourselves, did not reflect what we had become. So we had to. So there's a really good designer that we collaborate with, and he kept on reminding me, and I said, yeah, like it'll happen. Like pretty much at the 10-year mark, we're going to start looking at that. So around the 2022, 23. We started looking, and it didn't take very long. Like the first mock-ups and how we would present ourselves, and then we looked at social media and said, okay, like we don't want to be all over the place on social media, but on social media, it's more or less sharing some of our customers' stories. It's not none of our posts. I mean, we refuse to say, hey, we're good. Like, let the customers say that. It's up to them to say that. So I kind of it all came about, and we did some training, and it was super smooth. Everybody just was pleased, wanted it, and they said, yeah, it's modern, fresh, moving. So, and I might not be the one in 10 years from now, but whoever is in charge here, basically my advice to them will be at the next 10-year mark, have a look at it. It's like, is everything you do is still on brand? Does it need refreshing?
Yeah, it's kind of like a lobster. You kind of grow out of your shell, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to kind of shed that shell and allow you to grow into something new. So I agree with you. And it is important, that on some regular interval you're reviewing that and just taking an honest look in the mirror and how are we going to market? Does it represent how we're managing our customers and the customers that we want?
Absolutely,
especially within your space, because your brand needs to be important to you because you're managing a brand asset for your clients. Especially in the alcohol and liquor space, so much of that plays a big role in purchasing. So if you're a good steward of your brand, I think that shows that you'd be a good steward of their brand.
Yes, absolutely.
Ken, anything else you wanted to jump on before we hit some of these closing things? Or
I think he's covered a lot of it. I mean, he's got an interesting business, and he's doing a lot of the right things, and so he's already kind of said the things that I was going to dig into. So I think.
Sorry, Ken.
You stole his show. No, I think it's great because I think when people listen to this, a lot of them could learn a lot from what you've talked about, because you're doing things that are, in my view, a step ahead of where a lot of people are in this space, especially from a marketing and a branding side. So I hope people, really listen to that and learn from that.
The best advice that I can give any manager or business owner is do not be afraid to ask for advice. Ask, and you'll never ask enough. And ask sometimes, and that's why even for us, like in some of the decision, like we're looking at some capital investments this year, and I formed a small group, and there's people in the group that might not even touch the machine. They might just sweep around it, but
Right.
they do have they have a piece of it. They participate, and it's unbelievable what you take from them, and as well taking advice, the advice, having the advisory group, having the people that I can call and say, I'm dealing with a situation. I have a customer. It's a bit difficult on something. How have you dealt with something like this before? And then you get very, very good, get good feedback from that. And I found that not many, when I was in my transition years, uh, I try to consult for, and I was trying to consult for like single business owners, and then I stopped doing that. And then someone says, "Why did you stop?" I said, "That because they didn't need me. They know everything." It was that simple. I said, "They don't." That would show up. They would tell me they know everything.
You just mentioned something that I wanted to dig into. You were talking about purchasing capital equipment. How do you choose your vendors? How do you choose your suppliers? Like, what are the traits that are important to you? Because there's a lot of selection to be made, and some of those are big decisions, and they play big roles within your success. So how do what are some of the traits that you're looking for in a vendor?
We're looking for basically we're looking for a similar match than what we would look for a client. Like,
Okay.
we want loyalty, we want service. We want to make sure, like, we explain to them what our service model is, and we make sure their service model aligns. And we don't we will never, and I will never allow it on my staff to do that. Nickel and dime event. Like, we will never go to any supplier and say, "Oh, well, I got a better price from." No, we don't. Like, this is not allowed at Artcraft. We talk cents. We say, okay, there is some costing that we need to be conscious of. Like, our vendors know this. On raw stock, it is the same thing, and we're extremely loyal with who we do business with. We don't switch just like for the sake of switching or because it's cheaper somewhere else. And that's the one thing that I would hear from some supplier that would say, "Well, we're having problems. Like, they'll buy from us a bit, and then next thing you know, they're gone. So you're not going to get that from us." But the thing is, if we actually ask you and we rely on you, we want you to be there.
Nope, I think that's an interesting point in that you want your vendors to treat you like you treat your customers.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
Absolutely, because if someone comes in and just wants to sell us strictly on price, what do you get? You get a cheap price. You're missing all the rest of the aspect of it.
Yeah, well, I think that's in my conversations with you, it's one of the things that I really took away was that a lot of the packaging space. People kind of look at it as a commoditized, right? So it's like, I'll just get the same thing from you or from someone else, but you have a whole different perspective. And I think it's led to, just because you understand who your customer is, you understand the kind of business you want to run, you understand the kind of vendors that you want to have. And that drives a premium value because you provide premium service. And so it says a lot. And I think a lot of businesses could learn from kind of that process and that mindset.
Yeah, because there is a commoditized aspect to it. We're not lying to each other, but that's the one thing is if somebody comes in and says, "Well, I can get it for 2 cents cheaper if I go here," like, do we really get into these conversations? No, because for us, when there's going to be a problem, we're going to be there. and that's where we've seen some leave and to come back, and we welcome them back. Some we don't. I mean, we've got one recently that left, and they're not coming back. They don't know yet. They haven't called back.
Hopefully they're not watching.
But it's like that was the other thing that we were doing the training, and and I was telling the staff, I said it is okay to be able to fire a customer. And then they all looked at me. I was like, fire a customer? It's like, you can't do that. Like, what are the others going to think? Well, they're going to think that you're standing your grounds on something. Like, just
100%.
I mean, it takes a lot because we're very patient. We don't fire at will, but just like if somebody's abusive to our staff, and it's happened, like people call and they're just not being very nice or polite or respectful to our staff. Like I don't put up with that.
Couldn't agree more. I've fired several clients in my day. Just you can't. There's a level of respect. Like problems happen, and you can overcome those problems, but just being rude and disrespectful can't be tolerated.
We always give guests the chance to plug anything upcoming. So anything going on at Artcraft in the coming months that you want to push or promote or anything like that?
Not really. Just the usual. I mean, we're obviously spending. We're going to be buying some capital equipment. We're not getting into new lines. I think what we're doing is we're going to be improving the existing and continuously improve. We do want to work. The one thing it is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, and it's a bit slow changing, is we do want to automate our approval process to eliminate the use of emails, so that you just do it through a link. I want to be able to, the approver come in and say, okay, yeah, it's approved. Just one click, and it goes into our system, and it becomes live at that point. So that is something that we're working on. We do have key objectives every year. So, and our fiscal year actually ended in September. So for the next year, I've already given the heads up to the staff. Those are some of the things that we're going to be working for, like moving forward in 2026, like essentially that ease of doing business, making it even easier than it is now.
Very cool.
We also have some rapid fire questions for you. We always close with this. So obviously they're tied to branding. First off, what's your favorite brand?
I knew this was it's a tough question, but I'm a car guy, so I would say BMW.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay, wow.
Because BMW nice. For years, and BMW uses the 10-year model. Like if you follow the company, like every 10 year, a line will get rebuilt, but it's like 2, 3, 4, 5. Like so 2, 4, and 6 came later, but it was always 3, 5, 7. And what you saw is you would see 7 being rebuilt, so you knew what would come for the 3. Because I owned 3s for a long time, and you would see what would come up. Mercedes kind of did the same thing, where they, if you go into their 200 models, what they do is it's kind of like everybody can afford it, and they sit at it, but they get the feel of the quality and and what the brand is, and they stick to their lines. That's the one thing that I like, is they're not. It's not the next thing you know, they're coming up with a new model called a Rodeo. Like, that's the one thing that I don't like about North American brands, is like, what name are you going to come up with next? So,
BMW is
one of my favorite marketing campaigns. Oh, well, I have a lot of favorite marketing campaigns, but that was another good one. Is when I believe it was the Mercedes-Benz CEO retired. BMW, like the next day, launched a commercial, and they're like, it is him retiring and stepping out and driving home. And then it cuts and the garage opens up and he's driving a BMW out.
It's awesome.
So good.
That is so good. So BMW on the favorite side, what about your least favorite?
Jeez, that one I never like. I mean, the problem with like something that's least favorite, I just don't go there.
Stray away from the negativity.
I can't think. I can't think of it. don't really. I mean, I say the one thing like like if you take like I compare let's say because I'm in the cars and I'm critical of the North American car industry because I find that it's often into a reinvention mode. And I find it's often reinvented, and then they come up with all these new names instead of stick to something and that you build well, then keep on building it well. Like I own as a commute car, I have a Chevrolet Volt, which is an extended electric car, best technology that Chevy ever made, and they got rid of it. And now they're realizing that's we shouldn't have got rid of it. And I was at the car show this year talking to the GM representatives, and they say, yeah, they're looking at bringing it back, and it's going to be reintroduced probably in the Equinox and in the Blazer. So I said, well, that's great. Stick to it. But just when you get something good, why are you taking it off market?
Right. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the North American car brands that seem to have a tendency to do that, and I don't know why. It's guys, it's not candy. It's not throwaway stuff. It is a depreciating asset, but still, it's like my BMW is going on 10 years old and looks as good as the day I bought it.
I mean, it's short term. The kind of the insight. They're not working on as long term plans as European and Asian brands do. They have much longer business plans. Where I think in the U.S. they're much more on a quarterly earnings report. Right? If we have had 3 down quarters in this line, then shareholders expect some type of change, right? Rather than just sticking with it.
Yeah, if you take the Japanese, the Corolla, it's been for forever. The RAV4 forever. So they're never letting go of these models. They'll introduce kind of a side model maybe beside it, but they're just never going to reinvent those. They modernize them. I mean,
they're their own brands on themselves, like the Corolla, right?
I remember years ago I was on a consulting work in China, and they pick us up with a company car, and the guy drives a Honda Accord, and I'm looking over, and I said, "You got 428,000 kilometers on this car." He's like, "Yep." He goes, and he says, "How?" He's like, "Well, the company pays for maintenance because obviously it's a company car." So he says, "I maintain it," and I says, "But it looks new." It's like he just keeps on running it, and
yeah, that's impressive.
That's a well built brand for sure.
So, last one for you: a book, could be business or otherwise, that you've read recently that you recommend to others, especially our audience.
The one that was a game changer. Hang on.
Oh, he's got it there.
There's 2 from him actually, from Patrick Lencioni.
Okay.
There's this one, but the one that was a game changer for us. I mean, we did a workshop on this, and I remember I think chairs were flying at the end of the workshop, but I mean, it really made Artcraft change. It's called The Advantage.
Okay.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah,
and Patrick Lencioni does have a podcast, so I mean, but The Advantage, that was a game changer for Artcraft. We were doing a workshop, and it was funny because I've always told my staff that I wanted to be challenged on things, and it was one of those things, and I was kind of stuck on making a decision. Sometimes, I'm the owner, so I had no opposition, but they basically cornered me. I was in the corner, and I was like, "What are you going to do? This is your call to make, and you better make a call." I mean, and then we had a family. Just like I say, chairs weren't flying, but I mean, it was one of those sometimes you just go, "Hey, what are you going to do?" And then it changed Artcraft end for end at that point.
Very cool. I like
yeah,
that.
well, Ken, we're going to have to check that one out, I think, huh?
100%.
Well, Alain, you've been an awesome guest today. We thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
And
I did my hair this morning. So
yeah.
Hope it's okay.
I know.
It looks good. I was going to say something.
Yeah.
I was going to, awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been great getting to know you. And I, look forward to the next time we're in person.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me, guys.
No
Sincerely
problem.
appreciate it.
Thanks
I
again.
love to share.
Thanks so much for joining us on Unpacking the Brand. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And if you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you have a moment, we'd love it if you could share this podcast with your network or leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people who are passionate about business, branding, and innovation.